Wow, why am I reviewing this so late? Because I wasn't going to go to the cinema, especially at this point in time, to watch Mortal Kombat, and only just recently came out on Blu-ray. Why am I reviewing this at all? Why not? I mean, when I trash Monster Hunter, I can trash this too. Okay, maybe that's harsh. I don't consider this a necessarily wholly bad movie. I think it has its upsides, but it's certainly far from a movie I care to rewatch. It is better than Monster Hunter, though. To get out of the way, I really like the original 1995 film, not because it's necessarily a good story or anything like that, but because of the cast and the acting. The performances really stand out to me. Robin Shou's Liu Kang is the first and only version of the character I've genuinely cared about. Lyndon Ashby's Johnny Cage is good enough to rival the NetherRealm era's take on the character. Trevor Goddard's Kano basically redefined the entire character across the franchise, and Christopher Lambert's Raiden and Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa's Shang Tsung remain my favourite incarnations of either character period, with the only rivals to me being Clancy Brown's Raiden, purely out of bias for Clancy Brown and my Highlander love, and Tagawa's own other incarnation of Sung in Aftermath. Along with that, I think the effects for Goro were done very well for the time, and, well, you know, the ninjas were done awfully, but we all know about that. Also, Annihilation is a terrible film, and the 2021 is infinitely better. As for the 2021 one, the biggest problem I have with it is inherently the characters. The only one I think was an improvement across the entire film over the previous one was Hiroyuki Sanada Scorpion. And while not devoid of problems, I think this character was the best returner portrayed in the film. Aside from that, even on their own merits, I felt like the characters were not great. Josh Lawson's Kano was fine, but the rest were meh. Ludi Lin's Liu Kang feels a bit too stereotypical, Mechard Brooks' Jax doesn't really stick with me, and let's say about how Raiden and Shang compares the better, though I did like Junan's take on Shang Tsung. Aside from that, there is one character I legitimately love. My favourite character in the entire film, including even Scorpion, is Max Huang's Kung Lao. The one time I truly popped off in this movie was his first appearance, and he continued to be very entertaining and likeable, with my favourite kill in the film on Nitara. Alright, the kills. Intent to follow in the footsteps of Annihilation, this film includes a bunch of characters from the games that just end up dying off, and while I certainly wasn't crying about Nitara or Reiko's death, Cabal, Melina, and especially Goro's did rub me the wrong way. Goro got to have I think maybe 1 or 2 lines before dying and showing off in a character. Melina I don't remember any lines from, and the best she did was have her mouth split open before she died. And Cabal was honestly pretty cool, all things considered. His voice was cool, his costume was excellent, and his fight scenes were not that bad. I even honestly liked the way he went out because the dragon's cool, but unfortunately I just don't like that he went out at all. And I get that Reiko and Nitara I'm okay with dying because I don't really care about them, but at the same time you could have done something new with them. Admittedly, this is my inner Mortal Kombat fan talking, thinking about all the missing potential, but I guess as a film to an outsider or a casual fan, this wouldn't be too bad. Unfortunately, then comes my least favourite character in the film, Cole Young. This character is boring and bland, and why should I even care? The film can't even write characters with pre-established personalities, aside from Kano, Scorpion, and Kung Lao, then what the fuck chance does it have at writing an original character? The answer? None. Cole Young sucks, and he's basically just a wannabe Johnny Cage. Like literally, his whole thing is that his career's on the shits, and then he gets dragged into this crazy thing, this big Mortal Kombat related thing, and he's got no idea what's going on, and he's the audience surrogate learning about new things. You could have just had Johnny Cage, man. Oh wait, I actually forgot about a character, and I legitimately forgot he was in the film while writing the script. Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero was literally the same as the first movie, just Shang Tsung's bitch. Sure, he gets to say some lines now and again, but he's still outside of the opening scene, a characterless schmuck whose biggest contribution is being a wall for our characters to beat the crap out of. I get Bihan was never the most complex character, partially because they never did anything with the noob Cybot angle, but come on, guys. Oh yeah, Reptile was here too. I mean, you know, they didn't do anything with the storyline, but at least he looked kinda cool, alright? Right? Speaking of sucks, this story sucks. Like, did we really need a prophecy to be added to this narrative? Yeah, I know there's prophecies in Mortal Kombat, but those are about Armageddon and the One Being. Those are like, you know, actual mythological prophecies that don't have too much bearing until the final game, and even then, it's not your classic, it's a doomsday prophecy, not your stereotypical chosen one prophecy like this one is. Was the idea of a tournament taking place in another realm of existence where a god chooses the fighters he needs most with to protect Earth against an evil soul-sucking sorcerer not good enough? Did we really need to add more cliches and less originality? This film's story amounts to a bunch of people got chosen by magic trance stamps and they went to an island and did fuck all until some guys attacked and they fought back and killed them. It's just boring and uninteresting and I didn't get invested. Oh, but Nemesis, stop being so nitpicky. It had cool action and tons of gore and that makes it good. Okay, sure, if you want that, then go ahead and watch it. And you know what? Please enjoy it. I myself enjoyed some of the action scenes. The problem is that when I care for the characters of the story, they just evolve into white noise. Several times in the film I just thought, okay, this is happening now, and a fight started. Of course, I realize some people might be thinking that my opinion is, it's different from the game, so it's bad. But that's not that at all. I know a lot of things I've said can come across that way, but here's the way I see it. This is an adaptation, ergo it should have some things that remain in the spirit of its source material. If someone was to make a Spider-Man movie that's really good, but it's about an alien going across space destroying worlds with this sort of skull-faced Legion of the Damned, I think it's fair to criticize it for being a poor adaptation. Because at some point you have to ask why it was an adaptation at all if it wasn't even going to stick to the core of what's it's adapting. Couldn't it just be its own distinct thing? In which case the answer for why it's an adaptation would be to get more money. But what matters here is that this film is not only what I consider to be at best a mediocre adaptation, but also just a bad film. Not entirely, it has its good points, admittedly, but putting aside my attachment to the source material, the characters remain poor, and in fact Scorpion is a character where 90% of what I like about it comes from my knowledge of the source material, as opposed to what's actually in the movie. And other video game movies like Sonic the Hedgehog or Detective Pikachu remain different enough from the source material while maintaining some of the key spirit and tone and manage to be entertaining. Now those aren't what I call good movies either. Well, I'd say Sonic is on the cusp of a good movie, but in like a low tier good sense, and I call Detective Pikachu a film that's neither good nor bad, though I did enjoy it. But those are films where any fan of the source material and also any casual with no knowledge can go in and come out satisfied, right? I don't think Mortal Kombat does that. It has the spirit of the games in that it has a lot of gore and violence, but it doesn't in that the story feels nothing like Mortal Kombat. The characters that, aside from the ones who lack subtlety, don't feel like the characters they're meant to be, and I just don't feel like this is a satisfying Mortal Kombat movie. And when I think about what motivation I'd have to rewatch this film, I realize there really isn't any. Without a story or characters for me to care about, the only things to motivate me would be the action and gore, but here's the thing. If I want a fun action movie, I can just watch John Wick or Terminator 2. If I want an Asian action movie, I can just watch Enter the Dragon or SPL. If I want a violent action movie, I can watch Shoot 'em Up or Kill Bill. And if I want an excessively gory splatter film, I can watch Rikyo or Tokyo Gore Police. Also, it's probably important to note that films like SPL, Kill Bill, or John Wick, the action is actually shot well and not quick cut bullshit that's boring and feels like they're trying to hide shitty choreography, which is not even doing it. The choreography is fine. Do gotta wonder though why the blood and gore only comes out during fatalities. I mean, you'd feel like Kung Lao would be cutting people up with his hat, or Kabal would have dug into Liu Kang's flesh with his hooks during their fight, or maybe Cole Young before getting his literal plot armor would have had a bit more injury during his Goro fight. You know, for an R-rated film, it sure does feel PG half the time. So really, I have no motivation to revisit this movie, but with the original, my motivation to revisit it would be to see these characters I like again. Yes, their stories and archetypes have been done before and since and done better, but these portrayals, actors, the writing, and the way they're done is something unique to the 1995 Mortal Kombat film. If I want Robin Xiao's Liu Kang, I can only go to this film. But do I recommend the 2021 Mortal Kombat? Honestly, kind of. To someone looking for a film that will have characters or stories worth being invested in? Hell no. To someone who wants a fun time where they can shut off their brains? Then sure, because this to me is a film where, instead of being one where you can shut off your brain, it's one where you have to shut off your brain. But not intentionally like a Sharknado movie. And that's my problem. If its intent was to be a movie where you can shut off your brain, then sure, it would be fine. But it tries to have its drama moments, it tries to have its emotional moments, and that means very clearly it's not trying to be a shut off your brain movie. Because if you shut off your brain, you're not going to really care about any of the emotional things because your brain is shut off. Unless of course they were done in a way that's just so over the top that it becomes funny again, but that was not what was done here. If you want an excessive gory splatter action, this isn't necessarily the worst option, but if all you're after is action and extreme gore and violence, there's not only the two movies I mentioned prior, but also films like Machete, Starship Troopers, or even RoboCop to an extent. All of which are films that are smarter, have better stories and characters, and more reason to revisit and rewatch. Well, except for maybe Tokyo Gore Police. That movie is incredibly dumb and I only recommend to people who think this Mortal Kombat is too PG. Still, that's only my opinion. I know a lot of people have come to really love this Mortal Kombat movie, and you know what? More power to you. If you can enjoy something I don't, that's great, and I'm glad the film can make some people happy out there, even if I'm not one of them. In the end, this is just my opinion, and I don't want to go telling people who disagree with me that they're wrong and saying, actually, you didn't enjoy, now allow me to aggressively push up my glasses. Anyway, so I'm not really a big fan of this movie. Do I prefer to Monster Hunter? Hell yes, I would definitely rewatch this over Monster Hunter any day. Should you watch it? Well, I mean, if that's what you're after, but there are films I would recommend above it for an action, gore, splatterfest film. Anyway, so when Techno Syndrome started playing to Scorpion coming the fuck out of nowhere to spear Sub-Zero, I might have popped off. Don't tell anybody the Kung Lao scene wasn't the only time. I love that little bit. The Techno Syndrome starts playing and Scorpion just stabs Sub-Zero. That, oh man. I had a massive smile on my face for that entire Scorpion Sub-Zero fight, I'll be completely honest. In terms of overall scenes, the first scene and that scene are my favorites. Also, I forgot to put this in, but the first 15 minutes are great. Everybody has said it, but I want to be clear. The start of this film was great. It also gives me Godzilla 2014 vibes by having this one really interesting character who then vanishes for the less interesting one, though at least in this film Scorpion does come back.